we do finish by midnight.
You have a Facebook, eh?
Last month's
If you go to my timeline, there's all kinds of things about cats, dogs, all kinds, yeah. And also very much info about natural things.
Oh, is that right? It is, yeah.
I wanna hop in it. No, I want more, I wanna hop inside. Yeah.
Way back when there was children's center. Summer camp.
No, I know she doesn't. He said he'll come down and put her on for a second.
Oh my
I know,
young
yeah.
shoes. No way. See, you're like,
Didn't like it, no.
seriously, you're like me. I think that's why
Well, his father was the same.
Except there is some physiology that comes along with it, but.
And his brother, he went and made a nice big sign like this, you know. Happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. And he put it up, lights around it and everything.
don't you feel love?
Indeed.
And yeah, but he also didn't like it that everybody saw his age.
All my neighbors came to my house.
One guy that just
And they're all saying that I'm not bad.
Okay, I'll rough here.
He was born in Indonesia, in the island of Sumatra.
I learned something new.
Made by a mega volcano.
Cindy, I got
I don't know, but you know what a tsunami was in Sumatra, Indonesia?
Yeah.
My two sons, my eldest son and me.
Welcome everybody to Health Info tonight. Our guest speaker is Kimburley Nadin from Elemental Vibration Intuitive Energy Healing. Okay. And you're going to speak on, teach us all about it. Energy,
Oh, I
health
look
and
at the
well-being.
faces in the room and I think a lot of them already know all of it. Or have a pretty good inkling. Hi, and welcome, and thank you for asking me to speak. And I'll tell you quite honestly, tonight I came with the intention of that the guides and the angels will speak through me and hear exactly, and I'll be saying exactly what you need to hear. I guess I was going to smudge tonight, but I was told that the smoke alarm might go off, so probably not a good plan. So, speaking about energetic health, there's some things that we can do every day that are really simple, that can support us energetically without even realizing how simple they are, but when you don't do them, the ramifications of those things and how they can build up in our bodies. In my practice, I see all walks of people, males, females, young people, elderly people. The thing everybody has in common is they're just looking for the answer. And what is the answer? Well, we all know in here, but how do you articulate it? I think it's important that, energetically speaking, when we're mindful of the thoughts that we have daily, that's huge. We should only ever be thinking, I know you're going to think I'm sounding like Pollyanna, but we should only ever really be thinking positive, helpful thoughts. Anytime we start thinking negative, it begets more negativity. So if you stop yourself right at the beginning, as soon as that negative self-talk starts, because we're our own worst critic all the time. that's just the nature of the beast. Being in this human meat suit, like I like to call it, and figuring out how we fit and where we fit, and feeling like we need to be accepted and we want to be loved, and that self-love is the most important love that we could ever have. And I think as long as we start in that space where we are only thinking positive thoughts and stopping anything negative as it comes in, that is so very, very important. Yes?
Are you taking questions throughout or at
Absolutely.
the end?
Absolutely. Feel free to interrupt at any time.
So Jack Canfield says if you have a negative thought, say cancel, cancel. And then last week somebody said to me, cancel, cancel doesn't work. Do you have an opinion on that to share?
My opinion on that would be, I kind of laugh when you said cancel, cancel. I think Control Alt Delete. You agree?
You're a literate person,
So
you.
I think Control Alt Delete. And I believe that whatever your belief system is, will be just fine. My huge, my advice would be to always put things in the negative, in the positive context, not in the negative context. So instead of I'm not, it's I am. I am, I am, I am. You're already there. When you see yourself as already there, one day you wake up and you're there. So, and it's important that you stop it as it starts. I've even told clients, put an elastic around your wrist. And as soon as something comes up, give it a pop. Like, I don't care what you do to stop it. It's just important that it stops. Period. It has to stop. And when you start with yourself, then you'll find that when you start that with yourself, it will automatically spread out to others. And then you'll find it's interesting when you start on that path and you become very positive, and you do have people say to you, come on, be real. Well, I am being real. You choose your reality. This is my choice, and join me, because you're going to be in a happier, healthier place. And I believe that any physical illness or ailment in our body comes from dis-ease, and dis-ease being those negative things that build up over time.
Yes.
So you start out, I teach something called SWEET, which is Self-Wellness Energy Evaluation Technique. And we use muscle testing to gauge where we're at. And what you're doing is you're giving yourself an energetic cleanse. You're keeping your aura clear and clean. You know, when you go to the mall, you ever go to the grocery store and you walk down the aisle and you see someone, you think, I can't talk to them because if I talk to them, I'm just gonna be so drained after. Or you see the number come up on the telephone and you're like, oh, just let the machine get it. Because you know by the time you hang up the phone, you're gonna feel exhausted. Well, that's because you are energetically exhausted. Because those people hook right in and suck you dry. So, and what happens sometimes is not only it's not over when they hang up the phone, because they put their little hooks in and they just keep drawing on you energetically until you do something to stop that energetic draw. Exactly. Well, you know what's something that's really cool when you can go to the mall? Here's a little tip. We have our chakra system. Everybody here know about the chakras, the 7 chakras that start at the root. There's the sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown. Before you go into the mall, when you're in the car, energetically zip yourself up. Because our malls are really yucky. It is what it is. I hear in Hong Kong, they're beautiful. Everyone loves to shop in Hong Kong. It's a whole different mentality. I'd like to go someday and I'll tell you all about it. You just energetically zip yourself up from your root chakra. I'm zipping it up and nothing's coming in. And it sounds hokey, but it works.
It works.
I ask you to try. Have you done that? And tell me the difference between when you do and when you don't.
I just don't allow it. I'm in charge of myself. Nothing is I don't allow anything to happen to me. I am positive. I refuse to be negative, and I refuse negative people.
And you'll find that when you make that change in your life,
Oh, yeah.
you'll find that there are people that will fall away.
Oh, yeah.
But you'll find
That's
that when
fine
those
with me
people
too.
fall away, new people will come. And people that will be supportive, and people that will be walking your path with you and sharing. And, you know, this is an awesome, awesome forum to be able to get together with a like-minded group of people and share some of these things. You know, I wasn't always like this. I've been practicing for probably just over 5 years, and I've been on the path for just over 10. And I met my husband when I was 18 years old and got married when I was 22. And this isn't what he married. Not even close. Okay, I got a construction guy. Okay, everything's black and white. So, you know, we did. We're here. We're still here. And we worked through, absolutely, and we worked through a lot of things together. However, I have to give him credit because I really am a totally different person than I was when I was 30 years old. And I'm so thankful for the person that I have become. I feel like every day is a gift. To be able to go into my practice and see people and see how wonderful they do, and see their lives change before their very eyes, it's just miraculous.
They call it the present. It's a present.
And the presence is
we-
our present.
It's a present every day, eh?
Absolutely, every day is a gift, absolutely.
First thing I do in the morning. Everything's still working.
Absolutely.
Be okay.
Check your parts.
Exactly.
Wake up with a smile on your face and not think of all the grudgy things and the rotten things you have to do. No. I'm positive, no negative.
Absolutely, and that's very, very important. There are things around us that are going to affect us. And those things, you're right, if you allow it, I like to look at everything. I know people will not, some people will actually get up in arms and not agree with me. My belief, and this is only my belief, is that everything is about lessons. Good, bad, or ugly, it's all about the lesson. And sometimes the lessons aren't easy.
Sometimes we have the same one over and over, in different versions.
Okay. You know what, I love that you just, what's your name?
Diane.
Hi Diane, I love that you brought that up, Diane, because this is how I like to say. You get a lesson, and the sooner you learn the lesson, it's over, and you move on to the next one. So the lesson though, it starts like this. So you get it, great, you move on. You don't get it, then it's like this. Then it's like this. Then it's like this. Then it's until you get it, it doesn't stop. So I've had people that ended up in bed. One girl got out of a car, she had her whole life in front of her, everything was, she thought she was gonna be a cake decorator forever, she's living with her boyfriend, she's young, vivacious, everything's wonderful, she gets out of a cab and gets hit by a bus. Now we look at that and we think, how tragic. And at the time, she felt, how tragic. She was laid up, stuck in bed, couldn't move, and was told, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And she said, no, I will do this and I will do that. And she moved forward, and this is just a young girl, 22 years old, moved forward. No more boyfriend, he's gone, the fiance's gone, she's on a whole new path, and is much healthier energetically than she ever was before. And I find that often it's when we hit those bottoms and we make the choice and we come up from that, it's incredible. So that's what I mean when I say, you know, there's that good, bad, and ugly. Did she need to get hit by a bus? Not if she got it like this. Right? Right? But the thing is, I believe that we're designers of our lives. To me, this here, we are in meat suits, and we are, and I know I can't remember who coined this, and or who is the, but I'm not taking anybody's thunder, but we are spiritual beings in a human body, having a spiritual experience in a human body. I believe we come to Earth because Earth is one of the only places that you can incarnate where you are not innately connected. So you come here and you have that ego driving you for acceptance. You have that ego. If you imagine like going to the circus where you see that guy with the plates, spinning plates, and he's got like 10 plates spinning along, right? And your ego tells you as soon as you get 10 plates spinning, you're going to be happy. Everything's going to be wonderful. But ego knows you can only ever spin 6. So where do we end up? Right? And I'm actually a fan of ego because I believe ego is what keeps us safe. And if we have time later, there's a little story that I'd like to read to people. I'd like you just to close your eyes and hear a short story about ego. I believe that when we weren't able to take care of ourselves, it was there to protect us. So I believe in not abolishing it, but living with a healthy ego. Any questions so far?
What are your thoughts on shadow then?
Again, for me, shadow is about the lesson and about those pieces of us, because it's a mirror, right? It's that mirror, and when we have the shadow happening, those are some of our hugest lessons, and working through those things and facing them. I believe that we can live harmoniously.
Well, if there wasn't a shadow, there could be no light.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rhonda. Another thing that you can do at home, if you're feeling like you've had a really draining long day and you've been around a lot of people that have been sucking your energy and you maybe weren't totally cognitive of it at the time, you can go to the superstores where I've seen them the cheapest, if anybody else knows of a better spot, but you just get the sea salts in the big jar, they're much more reasonable there, and just put between 1/8 and 1/4 of a cup in your tub, and that helps to remove the stuff, the negative stuff from your body. Don't stay in them longer than 20 minutes. I like the sea salt better. I prefer, I'm sure Epsom salts are fine, but I put in my tummy, I feel like sea salt is. And that's another thing that's really important that I'd like to also impress upon you, is guess what? We all know the truth. There might be somebody older, there might be somebody with more education, there might be somebody who we perceive that has it all together, but if they tell you something and it doesn't feel right here, you don't have to listen to it or take it in as part of your reality. And it's not about getting up in someone's face saying, that's a lie, you're wrong. It's not about that. It's not about getting into these confrontations with people. It's about just saying, oh, you might be right. When you say you might be right, it also means you might be wrong.
I always say it's your opinion.
Exactly. But it really trusts that, because that's what I find when people come to me. It's like they want me to give them all the answers. Well, they have all the answers. It's just learning to trust those answers and to listen And when you learn to listen and to trust, it just blossoms and grows, and it's incredible. And then you wonder how you were ever that other way. It's so foreign, it becomes like, you become a total, for lack of a better word, a whole new person. You become the person you're always meant to be. And I think a tool that's really important to get you into that place of authenticity and belief in yourself is meditation. And I believe that meditation is something that should be practiced every single day, without fail. And when people come in, I'll say, okay, they'll say, I don't have time to meditate. And at the beginning, give me 5 minutes a day. Give me 10 minutes, because 10 minutes is better than no minutes. And really, growth comes from stillness. That's where we get it from. That's when the epiphanies come, is when we stop and we're still. You know, when we're on these hamster wheels going 24/7 all the time, you don't have time to smell the roses or to feel the truth, because you're so busy trying to be and do and spin those plates. Let's keep those plates going. I had a gentleman, a client who's in his 70s, and tried to tell a 76-year-old man that he needs to meditate. And he's looking at me like I had 7 heads. And you want me to who? And so the way I explained it to him, which I thought was a gift from one of his guides, I'm sure, but they said, well, let's put it this way. You've got the farmer, he's getting the field ready for the crop. So he tills the field, and he fertilizes the field, and he gets it all beautiful, and then he plants all the corn, and then what happens if he goes back the next day and he turns all the field? And he goes back the next day and he turns all the field. When's he ever going to get a crop? And again, he looked at me like I had 7 heads. Well, never. Well, why not? Well, because you keep turning everything around. Well, exactly. Growth comes from stillness. Imagine yourself like you're a plant and you're a seed, reaching for the light, reaching for the water. So your meditation is your growth and your stillness time. It's unfortunate that our little children, like in the eastern side of the world, I'm sure they're taught from very young ages that meditation is just part of daily life. And it's a gift that we can give ourselves and to each other. Tell your friends. Tell them. Let's be still. Let's just take a moment and be still. Close your eyes and just be. You'll be so surprised. Any other questions? Yes, dear.
So meditation is one of those topics, and I know you and I have talked about this many, many, many times, but I just wanted to bring it up in case anybody else was wondering about it too. Meditation for every single spirit is probably as different as there is stars in the sky. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's no set formula for meditation. You know, I can remember, I think it was Nick when he'd come to town saying, yeah, you don't have to stare into the candle and have special music going and whatever, because I can't get into that. Yet I can be driving down the road and be having the greatest meditation ever for hours, and just, you know, have all these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful visions come to me. Or when I'm in the water or whatever. So I think it's so different for everybody.
Absolutely. I do like walking meditations, moving meditations. They are wonderful. I still believe it's important to find that time, that still time. I still believe that it's important to find the still time. Yes, you can do a walking. I've had incredible walking meditations in nature and being in nature. I've had beautiful, beautiful experiences, wonderful epiphanies with the animals, and everything around me, I still believe it's important to have that time, and even if you're sitting in nature, but just being still, so that your body's not moving, so that you don't have, there's no part of your brain that's concentrating on anything else. Yes?
In your discipline, is there a way that you can positively, scientifically know that you move from the beta brainwaves to the alpha? Or do you know of a machine on the market where you can, like put it on your head?
I've actually
Oh,
just
alpha.
talked to somebody
Oh, yeah.
who bought one,
Oh.
and you put your thumb on it.
Oh,
It's
your thumb.
actually, it's, I can get from him the information and forward it to you, and if you wanna send it out. But
Yes.
it's, I think he said he paid about $250 for it, and he got it online. And what happens is when you get your breathing in the right spot, the right color comes out.
Oh.
And depending on your heart rate, like your pulse, that's how it
Several
operates.
factors input into this machine.
It's just a little handheld.
Interesting.
It's a little handheld thing. For me personally, I find that when I go into that zone or that space is when I start seeing the colors behind my eyes. And everybody's different.
Yes.
But if you'll find that there'll be different feelings or sensations that you might notice in your body. For me, when I'm there, that's when I'm starting to see the colors go by, and in my mind's eye they're there. And that's the thing, when you're paying attention, you'll notice those things.
There's an opportunity at my church for a non-denominational open 45-minute silent meditation Sunday nights. And it's a group. So some people will testify that a group meditation is very different from solitary meditation, but you are all invited. Just like we throw in $2 here to pay for the rent of the room, we throw in $3 at my church to cover the light and the heat. And no one is turned away because they don't have the $3. And all are welcome.
Well, I always find that you see when you're in a group of like-minded people, it raises everybody's vibration.
Ah, lovely.
That's what happens. It's like everybody's doing the same thing, so we end up in a much higher vibrational space. And the really cool thing about being in that higher vibrational space is once you're in that space, then it's easier to get there the next time, when you're not necessarily in such a large group. What else would you like to talk about? Anything else that?
I just want to clarify that we don't collect any money in this thing. No, it's just, it's just, if anybody wanted to put $1 in there, but like we said, the room was so paid off here that we had to donate the money to someplace else, so I hope nobody feels obligated to put money in that can. Don't do it, then Bill will have to look after giving it away again, so.
Not that that's a bad thing.
No, we're gonna get a special sound system, so when you have
Oh,
a soft-spoken person, then you can, everybody can hear.
Cordless.
Good idea. A Madonna
That's the
light.
best idea. Another big thing, something you did.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on like daily meditation books?
I think whatever tools that are supportive, it was really interesting. I had my my last client of the day today, she came in and we always talk about meditation, her and I. And she found on, I don't know if anybody has an iPhone, but it's free and it's a little book. And she goes, she's sitting in the chair tonight, she goes, I just saw my third eye. This book really clarified it perfect. So it's whatever works. But this one is free on iBooks, and it's called Meditation the Essence. And it's by David Tuffley.
I find on YouTube, there's like a ton of music, there's tons of guided meditations that are free.
Okay.
So if you're the kind of person that has a really hard time, like shutting off the mind,
Yeah.
you know, it's always thinking, sometimes a little 10-minute guided meditation is really helpful because when you're listening to something, you're not thinking about all the million things you have to do tomorrow. So, and it's free and it's on YouTube, there's tons, or music, or even just a way to explore different, what might work for you. And also there's like tones, you know, like solfeggio tones and stuff like that, so if you want it, so if you like to listen to toning.
Yeah. It's like I read a daily meditation now, so like I'll like read the daily thing and I'll just sit and contemplate about it. So I don't ever really actually get still, I don't think, because I'm actually thinking about that daily meditation, right, and how it can improve me.
That's like
So-
manifesting to me. That's like putting your thought out to the universe, like a prayer.
One tool that I often tell my clients to try is I ask them when they want to get into that a still place, I ask them to imagine in their mind's eye that they're sitting beside a really nice stream. And they're taking in the flowers and the animals and the bird. You might hear birds singing, you see the forest, and beside you there's a river.
Yeah.
And anything that comes up, put it in the box and send it down the river. So you can put people in the boxes, you can put your boss in the box. Everybody in the box, send it down the river. And it's really interesting because that's actually how the older gentleman that I was working with, that was his best way to do it. And at the beginning, there's so many boxes. And I say they can be pretty boxes or they can be ugly boxes, they can be whatever kind of boxes you like, and put it in the box and send it down the river. And that's a way, see what happens is as our feelings come up, they have to be acknowledged and released. So that's your way of acknowledging and releasing them. Because everything that we've ever experienced, even before this experience, and other experiences, is in ourselves. It's in there. And until it's actually released, it stays with us. So it's really important, it's really, really important to allow it to be released, whether that might be in that meditation, putting them in the box, setting them down the river. I've got one fellow who goes into the forest and screams his head off in the woods because he has a lot of anger.
What I've done and what I've been doing for like a long time is, like, I always find that I'm drawn to like rivers and just peace and stuff like that. So what I'll do is like, I'll take like tobacco, because that's my culture, right?
Yes.
Is using my tobacco, and I'll put everything
In the
in
tobacco.
there, and then I'll just go to a river or a lake, and I'll just be like, here. But you know, like,
Awesome.
I'm very thankful about it too, you know, like,
Absolutely.
but like, it's always challenging in the winter though. That's the only downside of it, you know.
Snowbank.
Yeah, there we go.
But no, that is doing exactly the same thing, but in the way that works for you, because you're putting all of those things in the tobacco. So you acknowledge it, you feel it, and then you release it. It's really important to do all three: acknowledge, feel, and release.
Because they say like, okay, now, if you go into the Christian side of things, they say, well, you got to forgive the person. You say, oh, I forgive you, but you say, oh, it's hard. You know, like, how do you forgive somebody you just hate? You know, like, I say I forgive you, but I could put you in the box and no paddle.
When I experience things like that, I found the quickest way is to try and imagine them as babies or as like really, really old people, because your compassion will come a lot quicker, and you know, like, you can just imagine them as a baby. It's like, well, somebody loved you one time, you know what I mean?
Spiritually, there's a good chance that they are babies,
Yeah.
right? At a spiritual level, they might only be 2. So they don't have it in them to even do it. So that it doesn't become about them or you, or to forgive or not to forgive. Like, how often, like, a 2-year-old comes up and whacks you, are you gonna hold it against the 2-year-old? And really, energetically, they could be only 2. We don't know anybody else. The other thing that I'm really huge about, big, is there's absolutely no judgment. No judgment, because really, it's none of my business. I don't know their path. I don't know their lessons. I don't know what they're supposed to get this time around. And it's not up to me to judge anything that anybody does. Because I don't know if that person that's homeless, in his last experience, he treated everybody like crap and cut a whole bunch of heads off. And now it's his time to know what it feels like to be humbled. I don't know. So if I don't know, I can't judge. That there's any one, and that comes also to the evil and the good, like that there's any one sin that's worse than anybody else's sin, like really? It's really none of my business. I'm only here to love and accept and support, and that's all. And to give that gift of love and acceptance and support, no matter who you are, or what you've done, or what your thoughts are, or anything like that. The only person that I have any business being concerned about thoughts or behaviors is my own. And as long as I can get up in the morning and look in the mirror and be happy with what is looking back at me, I think I'm doing okay. And that's really all that anybody should be concerned about.
Yeah, but you'd go to shelter house and prepare a meal?
Absolutely, absolutely you would. But you know, those people have that choice. We don't know why they're there. You know, I think to my daughter, and she'd come home to me, and it was a blessing. I got to hear her words a little bit later, but growing up, she'd come home and she'd be so angry at one of her friends. And she'd be saying, you know what she did to me? I would never do that to my friend. How dare she? I would never ever do that. And I'd say, honey, you don't know from where she came. Maybe she doesn't have a loving mom and a loving dad. Maybe she doesn't have 3 square meals a day. Maybe she doesn't have those things. I know, you're my mom. You're supposed to be on my side. I don't care. Look what she did to me. That's terrible. And some things are really mean and hurtful. Like really mean and really hurtful. And it's, where does it come from? We don't know. We don't know why she's choosing those behaviors. We don't know that we can't be in her shoes. And it was interesting because she fought me tooth and nail the whole way. And about 3 months ago, she came to a course, and in front of everybody at the course, she said, you know, my mom told me that, and she's right, I'm so thankful. I was blown away, I was crying my head off. You know, but that's what it's all about. That not judging and the accepting, because we don't know. We have no idea, and we don't really need to know. That's the other thing. We don't really need to know, yes.
Even though we're not judging, and we have no idea of their path or their past, would it not be adult just to limit our contact with those folks for now?
You absolutely have that choice. That's what I mean, where the people are falling out of your life and coming into your life. I didn't tell my daughter to go back and get kicked again. And say, okay, just go take some more. Take some more. No, please don't misunderstand that. Yes, no. You absolutely have the choice of what you're willing to accept from another person's behavior, and you have every right to tell them. I say tell them in a kind, loving way. You can get the same message across lots of ways. Do it in the kindest, gentlest manner possible. That's how I like to learn all my lessons. That's what I tell all my people. We want to learn it like this. The kindest, gentlest manner possible. Because guess what? We don't have to suffer. Imagine that. We don't have to. No, we really don't. But sometimes in ourselves, there's that belief system that if we don't suffer, if we don't pay our dues, if we don't do this, and if we don't do that, then we don't get it. And that's the only time you get it, is when you work really hard and you suffer. Then I might give you a little bit. That's bullshit, for lack of a better word. Sorry, I don't mean to swear. So, You be quiet in your corner.
Kim's starting to settle down now. The curses are starting to come out now. Sorry, I just had to put that in there.
So, you know, that is the reality. We really don't have to suffer. We choose it.
I have another change. I'm in charge of myself. I will not allow myself to get upset because so-and-so said that, so-and-so said that, they did that to me. No, I'm not getting mad, it's their problem.
You're absolutely right.
I'm in charge of myself, and I will not absorb anger, whatever, sentimental, whatever it is. If I feel up here and up here, it's not good for me. I will not accept it, and I will not allow myself to blow my cup because somebody else is blowing their cup. Forget it.
Absolutely.
That's my theory.
I like it. It's a good theory. Absolutely. And that's the whole point.
I thought that there's a few people who wants to listen. Some they say, oh, no, yes, you know. Yeah, okay, it's your problem. I just can tell you it feels good this way. You do not get yourself all in a jitter, you know.
I spent a lot of years trying to make sure everybody liked me.
They don't
A
like me.
lot of years. You know, get along with everybody, and then if I didn't get along with someone, it was like, oh, the world was falling apart. What's the matter with me? What's wrong with me? And then I finally learned it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. I'm shadowing or mirroring something to that person, whatever lesson that is, and really it's none of my business. Dina, you were gonna say?
Yeah, can you talk something about emotions, positive, negative, and when they're healthy and when, because sometimes we have to let our anger out,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Usually she brings it to me.
Yes, I do.
That's okay, she saves it all out.
I told,
Well, and that's what I'm talking about when I talk about you have to let those feelings out. You know, you have to, those feelings that are in there, the things that are in, things that we've carried with us, possibly from other experiences, need to be released. So, whether that is, you know, punching a pillow or, and actually Rhonda does something really cool, but she doesn't have the space to do it right now. She does shamanic breath work, and that's a really neat experience. You just hyperventilate and breathe, and you just wait for a surprise, and it's really exciting.
We don't like shamanic breath work.
You could get angry, or you could be happy, or you could be sad. It's just whatever has to come out comes out. And that is, it's important, the only thing that I tell you, it's important to be in a safe place. That you're in a safe place, in an environment, you know, where you're not gonna hurt yourself, or that you don't wanna put yourself in a place where you're gonna embarrass yourself. That's why I tell that one fellow, go out in the middle of the bush, because he lives in the country, go in the woods and scream your head off. Like, a house fell on the guy. He's got some anger about that. His whole life changed. You know, and then you want to just smash all the bandage, you know, put it all back together and be on with your merry day. Well, guess what? We have to process the things that happen to us on a day-to-day basis. So even when you're not allowing the negative stuff to come in, when it comes at you, you can still process it and release it. Process it, feel it, and let it go. When you're putting it in the box and sending it down the river, you're really letting it go. And eventually, after a whole lot of boxes, you'll be surprised at how easy it is. One of my favorite spots, I worked with Rob years ago, and this is before I was doing any of this kind of stuff. But it was funny how some things you just know, and that's what I was talking about, like you just know. I'm in my car driving home by myself, screaming my head off because I had, you know, some child that ran away and did this and did that because we work with hard to serve youth, And I would just be screaming my head off in the car all the way home till I was hoarse. And then it was over. It was out. I wasn't carrying it. I wasn't bringing it home to my family. It was out. How did I know how to do that? I don't know how I knew how to do that. But in hindsight, I know that I was doing the right thing. And we all know it's in there, and that's the other thing that's really important, is that you trust that instinct. And then trust it so that when something doesn't sit right, just kind of nod your head and smile. Move along. That's all. It's not about getting into confrontations, it's just nod your head and smile and, awesome, how was your day? Next. Because sometimes I feel like we get caught up in that having to be right or having to, who cares? As long as we're good, right? As long as we're doing what we need to do and we're feeling okay with it. Have a nice day. You were gonna say something?
I was gonna ask a question. I know it's an individual thing, but I have heard that it's on an average, it takes something like about 3 years to do a lot of your releasing that needs to be done.
I don't really like to put a time frame on anything, because I feel when you put a time frame on something, then there are expectations that are set up, and I think everybody's different. And what some person can process in 2 months might take someone else 10 years.
Yeah.
So I really like to stay away from that piece of it, because the only person that really knows how long it's gonna take to process is the person living it and doing it.
And it depends what your journey is this time as well, like is it a healing lifetime, you know, what are you doing here this time? But I have said several times before the December 20th date came around, you know, how much more releasing can I do? Like I just felt like for a year,
Oh yes, you've been under quite the.
like release, and you know, how much more. So then I started thinking, okay, am I releasing for other people now? Am I releasing for the animals? Am I releasing for Mother Earth? I mean, what am I releasing for? And that was when somebody had said, I think it was Abby had said, well, yeah, tends to be that my clients are usually around for about 3 years doing release work. So I was just wondering if you've noticed any sort of patterns.
Yeah, I don't like to really, I find that often if somebody is seeing me for a year, usually they're a completely different person. And we sit down and we say, what's different from when you walked in the door? Let's look at what's different. And does it mean that it's over? No. Right? You don't, I don't know. I'm there with you. Let's keep going on the path together and see where we end up.
I like to go on annual checkups. Rhonda, it's time for my annual checkup, and then you know the growth that you've done, but it's having that physical human experience and sharing with the other person, so
Well,
that
and
they're a
somebody's-
witness to
Somebody's
your.
witnessing your
Mhm,
path. They're
exactly.
witnessing your growth.
And you're honoring that.
And you're honoring yourself and all the work that you've done. Mind you, it is as easy as you make it.
So zipping up prevents you from taking on unwanted stuff, but is it healthy to zip up every day?
I would zip up whenever I was going into a situation that I wasn't sure of who was gonna be around or what was gonna be happening. Energetic integrity and being aware of your energetic health is absolutely your first, I think your first line of defense against everything, including a cold or a headache.
Okay. So let's go cellular level. Help me to understand how it gets trapped and then how it gets released.
Well, I can give you an example of, sometimes it's not always negative stuff. sometimes it can also be something like worry. So, I worry about one of my children steady. And that child ended up with a sore knee and actually blew her knee out. And I believe it was through my own worry for her that transmuted as that bad knee in her. So as soon as I became aware of that and cleared all that up, that whole piece of the not worrying and being aware of that, then the knee started to get better a lot quicker. And the same thing, like if you think you have that mother-in-law who's a pain in your neck, guess what, they really are. And that's what happens, it transmutes as a pain in your neck. So when you're honoring yourself at an energetic level and you're saying, hey, I'm not going to open myself up to that energy. So, and even before you pick up the phone, so you see the number on the telephone, it's like, I tell my clients, say, I'm going to speak to you, my energy is not available to you. I'm going to speak to you, but my energy is not available to you. Then pick up the phone and say, hello. Be prepared, just like the Girl Scouts. You know, be prepared.
You know, 10 years ago, I couldn't sit in a group like this. I had to sit outside in the hall because the energy that was being drained from me, and I didn't know how to stop it.
And what did you do?
I don't know, I've learned, I guess, somehow to take and keep that energy away from me.
Like you've created like a little shield. Another thing you can imagine you're like in a golden bubble.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a golden bubble, and it could be a mirrored bubble, so that anything that comes at you bounces right off. Goes right back to where it came from. And you can say that, okay, I'm in my mirrored golden bubble, and anything that's negative is not, it's going to be reflected back. And another thing, any energy work I do, and any energy work with the people that I work with, I always make it of the utmost importance that they always set the intention that they are only ever a conduit for 100% light. Nothing less. And sometimes it's through our own, not for lack of a better word, ignorance, that we think we might be, you know, working with 100% light, and we're not. I can remember one of the teachers that I worked with, I do some channeled writing, and I was really excited. I did this channeled writing, and I was so proud of it. I was like, look what I did! So I showed her this channeled writing, she read it really quietly, and she goes, how much light do you think this is, Kim? I don't know, but it must be lots. Well, check it out. So I start muscle testing, 100% light, no. Okay, well, it must be about, 95, no. Okay, come on. 90? No. 70, it's gotta be 70. No. It was 20% light. I was mortified. Well, she said, did you set the intention? I was brand new. I forgot. So it's really important that you're only ever a conduit for 100% light. That's all that's allowed, period. I remember a story of one of our colleagues coming to, I had a healing center with Rhonda in the Rattan building. Now I'm over on May Street, but we were over in the Rattan building. And one of our colleagues that would come to see us could see things. And so she came up one day and she said, there's all these black things on the outside of your door! I had to send them away. They were trying to come in, but they couldn't come in. And it's because only 100% light is allowed. Nothing else. I'm only ever a conduit for 100% light.
Do you have any ideas of how to keep that 100% going when you go into the dream world?
I would just continue, before you go to sleep, you set the intention that you're only ever working with 100% light, because I do a lot of dream time work. I know a lot of people that do a lot of dream time work. And another thing that I would recommend that you do was also set the intention when you're going to sleep that you have at least 5 hours of sleep.
I need 8.
Well, everybody's different, but your meat suit needs at least 5 to 7 to function in this, on this plane. So all your dream time stuff can be done before and after that. You don't have to work all night long. So they kind of forget sometimes that we need that time to be able to function here. So when you set that intention before you go to bed, I need a solid 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep for the meat suit, all the work we can do before and after, please, 100% light. And I tell you, set the intention regularly, and what happens is sometimes, once you get it going, then you might not forget you're okay, but then you'll notice, I'll have people that come back and say, I'm not sleeping very good. Well, did you set the intention? Oh yeah, I stopped. So just, you know, those little reminders and just set those intentions. The intentions are so powerful.
I have an 18-year-old, and I really believe he's starting to open up to be aware and all that good stuff. And for the last couple of weeks, he's really, really frightened to go to sleep. Because he's getting, it's like, I'm interpreting it as he's getting
Bombarded.
Bombarded at night. So he's getting these nightmares and all these ugly things going on when he goes to sleep. And because I think because he's opening up, so he's, when he's calm and relaxed, then he's starting to get,
Starting to see it.
starting to see it or starting to get attacked by the other side because he's opening up. So I was wondering if you could share some
I would
stuff.
ask him also to set the intention. Intention is huge, and sit him down and say, before you go to sleep, only 100% light is allowed. That's it.
I don't think you'll understand those words, but I'll
But it doesn't
come up
matter,
with
you know,
something.
like, but even, it's important that it's, I like the light versus the love and light, because love means different things to different people. So when it's 100% light, that's it, it's just light. There's no dark, it's just light. So if you put it to him, if you think about the dark side and the light side, we just want the light, and that's it. And sometimes that darkness that he perceives as darkness could be the fear of him. It could be just a fear that he's even seeing anything. So it might not even be dark, it just might be scaring the shit out of him. So there's a chance that it could be just, what the heck's happening to me? And I can relate a little bit because my children are waking up as we speak as well, and I have an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old. And it's been an interesting.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, it's really awesome because it used to be 3 against 1 at the supper table, the dad and 2 children, and now it's 3 against 1 the other way. Which I kind of feel sorry for him once in a while. Manifesting is huge. And then my husband made me think of manifesting. Manifesting is huge because manifesting, again, it's not about good, bad. It just is. So my husband is an awesome, awesome manifester. He is so good at what he does. Everything he touches is incredible. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But guess what? He manifests the crap too. He hates water. It's like, oh, you never believe it. You gotta watch water. Water's so scary. Water can do such horrible things, so much damage. Water's so bad. And it's like, would you stop with the water? We've had 2 water furnaces blow up, hot water furnaces. We had our place at the lake. It blew up in the winter time. Water. We have a home in Arizona. The thing on the toilet broke. I had a water issue in Arizona, for goodness sake, in the desert. Stop with the water already. I'm tired. You know, I think about my daughter when she was born. She came home and she was so quiet and just felt like I was putting her away. Just, oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. He sits at the table. Well, you know what they said at work. I said, what did they say? Some of them are quiet right till 6 weeks, then they get colic and they start screaming. What are you talking about? She's not gonna get colic. Would you stop that? Well, that's what they said. Really good till 6 weeks. Well, guess what? 6 weeks to the day, my daughter started crying. You could set your watch by her at the beginning, and by the end of it, she was crying from when she woke up. Her eyes were open, she was screaming. It was like, I can't take this anymore. I ended up at the chiropractor with her, but it was crazy. And she was fine. Oh no, you know, it's up till 6 weeks. Could happen. Thanks, honey. But I didn't know all this stuff then. You know, there's all these things that I realized. So manifesting works both ways. Because really, when you put it out there, they don't see it as good, bad, or ugly. It just is.
He needs a different kind of zip.
Hear, hear. I think I might go home and tell you said that.
That's good, blame it on
Perfect.
one of the students said.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'm kidding, he'd probably be mortified if he
Oh, he's a pretty good sport. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because even how I came to where I am today, it's funny, I never woke up one day and said, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna be a healer. Not even close. You know, I did my thing, I loved my job at the school. I started in group homes, went into the schools, was working in high school, hard to serve adolescents that really needed support. I loved what I did, and then I took a Reiki class over 10 years ago. And I took Reiki, and it was like this whole world opened up in front of me. It was like, I found the answer. But then I realized it was a really big question. There were lots of answers. So I just started following and listening to the voice inside. So it was really interesting. Then I decided, okay, I'm going to open up a practice and just share the energy. That's all I'm going to do. Okay, I've got my advanced Reiki because the person that I studied with taught level 1, level 2 advanced and master. I head up to my advanced, so I go to Sedona, and it all worked out. I got to do this awesome one-day retreat that I had no intentions of doing, and it was a personal one-on-one with different people all through the day. And all these miraculous things were happening. It's much too long of a story to go through. It was interesting, at the end of the day, the lady sitting across from me says, well, when are you going to start teaching Reiki? I'm not teaching. Hey, back up that bus. I'm just going to share it with people. Oh, no, that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to go back and share the light with as many people as you can. Well, it took me a while to chew that one. And then after that, so then I came home. And again, I said, well, I can't. First thing I said to her is, well, I can't teach Reiki. I can't hold my kegel long enough to pass an attunement. And she's like, well, you don't have to. I can't teach Reiki because I don't have my master level certificate. I just have advanced. I can print you one off on my computer right now. Well, I can't teach Reiki because I don't know how to pass an attunement. My master never taught me. We're going to do that next. Oh. So then I came home, but I was still caught in process. That's the other thing. Those of us that want to do it right all the time, you know, there's a few of us here, I'm sure. You know, you want to do it right, so I have to do it the right way. So of course, just being told all that wasn't enough. I had to come home and then go down east for a couple of weeks to do my master level course with my Reiki master. So then I did that, and then about a year later, then I met another woman again. About 5 minutes in, she's like, you can do what I do, and I'll teach you. And I was like, what? She's holding, I'll never forget, she's holding my hands. She goes, close your eyes, what's your message? And my hand was like, you don't have no fucking message for you. What are you telling me? A message. Back up that bus too. So it's interesting because I just kept trusting and following as it came up. You know, even in past life, I'm in past life and between life regression hypnotherapist, and if you asked me 4 years ago if I was doing that, I would have laughed at you. You know, but all those idiosyncrasies and coincidences that happen in our lives, I picked up these 2 books out of nowhere that I just was told to get the books, read them, had another one I bought 4 months earlier I didn't even know I bought. There was a course starting the next day, talking to the fellow on the phone. So it's just like tic-tac-toe. And I find when I live my life following the signposts, it's And I find people will say, oh, but there's an expense, or it costs too much, or it costs that. When I'm open like that, it just shows up. And you don't know from where it comes, it could be anywhere, but it shows up. What do you think?
And it's all in divine order.
That's
true
Those are
too.
nice
Don't you love
words.
that one?
Yes.
That's my favorite.
Nice word.
I always say, I can hear Kim in the back of my head saying, it's all in divine order.
You know, when you wanted to take that course and you couldn't take it, or you wanted to do, or something that you thought you couldn't do and then you get to do, it's all meant. It's all meant.
Everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely, but that's a really tough cookie for some people to swallow, especially if they've lost a child or if they've lost a loved one. It's a really hard cookie to swallow for sure.
Then you have to teach them the power of positive thinking.
Absolutely.
I've been looking everywhere for that book from Norman Vincent Peale to show, give it to a lady who badly needs it. I'll be a beat about to find it. It's one of the best books. It changed my life and my husband's life. The power of positive thinking, Norman Vincent Peale.
Speak guy taught us here in college.
Okay.
Stewart was his name. I don't know if he still does it. Positive thinking.
Okay.
Entire course.
Stewart.
Irby Stewart, thank you.
Would you all like to hear the story about the ego?
Yeah.
Are you interested?
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like you to do while I'm reading this is just close your eyes. I'm gonna do it for any time or two. And just take a deep breath.
I might be asleep.
No, you will go to sleep.
It's my eyes, I'm sleeping.
Oh, yeah, you might. Depends how tired you are.
Would you give the credits?
Yes, I will. This is by Nicola Christie. And this is a book called 2012, A Clarion Call, Your Soul's Purpose and Conscious Evolution. It's an excellent, excellent book, and I recommend it to a lot of my clients. She gets them at the Fairy Garden. I like to shop local, so I tell her and she brings in lots of them, which is nice. And I was so excited when I found this story, because to me it really speaks to what ego is, and I just really love it, love it, love it. So this is called Ego and Self, a Fairy Tale. For a moment, let us go into our imagination and picture the self as a king or queen returning to reclaim the throne of its kingdom. Let's imagine the many shadow defenses it encounters through the corridors back to the throne room, where it will encounter the ego. Ego has realized that self is returning to reclaim its kingdom. Symbolically, ego, experiencing fear and panic, frantically barricades the throne room door. Eventually, self arrives and knocks on the door, requesting that ego let it in and relinquish the throne. Ego is defensive, refuses to open the door, and prepares to take up arms ready to fight. Ego is prepared to do anything to remain in power, and through the closed door tells this to self. Ego proceeds to try to intimidate self into submission in the vain hope that self will scurry away to its place of exile. However, self rides the storm whipped up by ego. Ego feels powerless in the full presence of self and panics further. What will become of it if self succeeds in reclaiming the throne? Ego fears it will die. It can see no other outcome. Ego is too afraid to surrender to self and does not know what to do. Resolutely, ego digs in its heels and refuses to move. They have reached an impasse. Days, weeks, and months go by with self remaining present and ego locked in the throne room, with no resources to maintain its power, becoming weaker. Ego resolves to die on the throne, for surrendering to self will surely only result in this outcome, until self throws ego a lifeline. Self begins to speak with ego ever so gently and with great respect. Ego is struck by the tone of unconditional love and compassion in this voice, believing it to be the kindest and most beautiful voice it has ever heard. Ego begins to feel very, very weary, overwhelmed with exhaustion, and begins to pour out its fears to self, who listens with great compassion and empathy. Ego feels an inexplicable sense of trust, and as each of its fears are validated by self, ego begins to consider the possibility of opening the throne room door. Yet again, it is overcome with the fear of the consequences. As much as it wants to trust, for it is so tired, it is afraid, believing that self will betray it. Ego pours out these fears to self. Self hears ego's fears, and with the greatest tenderness and compassion makes a promise. It ensures ego that its life will be safe and offers a written promise with a golden seal, which stands for absolute integrity and authenticity. Self slides the document under the door for ego to consider. Ego reads this and notices a separate letter tied with a golden thread. Ego unwraps the letter. It reads, "My dear, dear ego, I am so glad to finally have the opportunity to thank you for saving my life. I recognize that without you, I would not be here. I would not be alive. You were there when I most needed protecting, and even though I have been in exile for all of these years, you ensured that I was provided for. You have held on to my kingdom, and many battles you have endured on my behalf. I know that you are battered and bruised, scattered, scarred, and weary, yet you never deserted me or left me exposed, unprotected, or vulnerable when I was unable to return to claim my kingdom. This undertaking has been a great burden for you, and it took tremendous courage and strength. How can I ever repay you? What price can be placed on a precious life? You have served me so very well. You have always been and will remain my hero, heroine, and I know that everything you have done was to protect me. I am humbled in your presence, for I know that you have suffered greatly in my name. I see the pain and hurt you have endured. I see your heart has been broken. I see the anger and rage you have felt and received. I see the loss you have suffered. I see the loneliness you have endured. I see how you stood in the line of fire for me when the first perceived threat to my existence occurred many years ago, and how you have repeatedly done so ever since. All that you have suffered and endured has been to preserve and ensure my existence. You have been the most loyal of friends. You have never abandoned me. You bear the many scars of the trials and ordeals of this life. My beloved ego, I have been asleep. For many, many years I was lost in exile. I did not know who I was. During these years, I forgot what happened at our first meeting when you shielded me from attack. However, one day, not so long ago, I heard the most pitiful cries of anguish. I heard a voice scream out in the still of the night. Help me, God, set me free. I can no longer live like this. I am so lonely and in so much pain. I'm so tired. Help me, someone, release me from this suffering. That cry awakened me. It was as if I were resurrected as I felt the life force return to me. I heard that cry of anguish which pierced the very core of my heart. Every cell and fiber of my being heard that call, and I recognized that voice as your very own. In that moment, I knew that it was now my turn to save you, my dear and loyal ego. Ego, I have come once more to be the ruler of my kingdom. I am as new. Even though alone, I have been protected for all of these years. I am unscarred with an unbroken heart. Dear, dear ego, would you do me the great honor of being the one to whom I turn to for advice when I need it? Let us once more be friends. I have no need of a wounded ego, yet greatly of a healthy one. You no longer need to be lonely, for I am here as your friend. First, you must rest and heal. Would you trust me to guide you to the people and situations that can help you to heal, to let go of fear, to learn to play, and to experience joy and love? Will you rest? I have prepared new rooms for you to live in, and a beautiful garden of peace and serenity. What say you, ego? Ego fell to the floor with great sobs and said to self, yes, how very great this burden has been, and yet not a burden, a sacred duty. Ego spoke of the wrong it had done in self's name, of those it had hurt and how it had hurt itself. Ego hung its head in shame, afraid that by telling the truth of its misdemeanors, self would abandon it. There was a moment's pause, and then self spoke to ego in a most compassionate voice, saying, my dear, dear ego, I love you unconditionally and forgive you. Can you forgive yourself? Can you recognize that what you did to others was a result of what had been done to you? And even though this does not justify your actions, it does not make you unworthy? Ego replied, even if I could forgive myself, how will those who I have harmed forgive me? Without their forgiveness, how can I truly heal and be free? Self replied, dearest ego, you cannot know the karma of those who have crossed your path. Perhaps you were a catalyst or a teacher. You may have brought an experience into someone's life to help them to redress their karma. There is so much that we do not know in this dimension. Why punish yourself forever? If you stole from someone, now give to someone or to many. You may give of your time or your resources. If you abused someone, help those who have also been abused. If you killed someone, now help others live. Redress the balance of the actions you regret. For example, where there is fear, bring unconditional love. Know this, ego, all is forgiven. All is forgivable. You only need to forgive yourself and redress your past misdeeds to be free. This is something that you can do every day. Let it be a joy to do so. Ego stood up with great courage, and a shaky hand unlocked the throne room door and opened it. Their hearts met before their eyes, and in unison said, I've missed you, friend. From that moment on, a harmonious, positive, and true partnership began. Self took its place upon the throne as the ruler of its kingdom, with ego now healed, a positive and trusted advisor at its side. Remember that before we can truly embody the true self, it is the ego that helps us through the tough times in our life. Once we embrace the true self, we no longer react. Instead, we respond from the heart, from our authentic self, and as a result of this, our lives transform. I like it.
Very pretty.
Any comments? Thoughts? was so thankful when I found that, because I kept hearing you say, you gotta get rid of the ego, you gotta throw it out, get it out, get it out, get it out. And I thought, well, how do you get rid of part of who you are? We're supposed to accept all our parts. How do we get rid of one part that's in us? It's in there. So I don't know if anybody else has any other further questions this evening, or? We're good?
I guess I would like to know if you know, for those of us that haven't walked the path as long as others, will we have accepted some disease, which is maybe physical now? What is the path back? Forward, but you don't need to
undo
change the
what's been
situation
done.
now that we're more conscious.
Those steps, I've been meditating daily, letting go of the things that you've been carrying, maybe talking to somebody, having, getting some support. There's so many in our community. There's so many people that can support you on path, absolutely. There's a Grey Wolf has a teaching lodge that runs every second Thursday. There's lots of things that are available to you, so you don't have to go it alone, for sure.
It's doable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything's doable. There are no, it is limitless. The only
I
limits
find
are
each person that you
ourselves.
speak to, they give you 5 leads. You follow those 5 leads, then you've got 25 leads. Follow those 25 leads and it's just, it's infinite.
And you might, and it's, and you might find that you might talk to one person and that might not
Yeah.
resonate, and that's okay. So then you just keep going, and eventually you'll be exactly where you're supposed to be. Often I've had people say to me, I had your brochure on my wall for a year.
Guilty.
And I just kept, why didn't that come before? And you know what I say? Because you weren't ready. Because when you show up in my office, it happens. And you have to be ready. So everything's in divine timing, absolutely.
You talk about manifesting stuff. You're familiar with The Secret DVD?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it this entire time.
Yeah, I've watched it quite a number of times. But people, lots of times, they go to manifest things. They say, well, I'm going to think positive. I'm going to keep healthy. I'm thinking healthy. But they're thinking healthy, but yet they're thinking about fighting against the disease or whatever they manifest the other side because they're not thinking positive really. They're thinking about the disease or they're fighting against things.
Sometimes it's how you word it, even in your head.
Yeah, there's such a narrow margin there between moving forward and fighting against the negative that you manifest. Like it's...
Well, like the water thing.
I manifested a broken wrist last month.
And when it happens, it's like...
2 or 3 days after I broke it, I went, oh shit. Because I remembered the thought pattern, I remembered how I manifested. You do better when you know better, right?
And it's a process it's an ongoing process for as long as we're here. It's a never-ending story for real.
Yeah.
And I really like to think of this as the great big movie. This is really the illusion. Because this is all about the lessons.
So everybody has a consciousness, separate consciousness here, but yet
But it's all one.
but we're all in this.
It's all one.
Yeah.
There's only just me, and everything here is a reflection of...
What's the nature of the separation? What's the nature of the separation you spoke of? No one's been able to answer this for me. I have a funny feeling the separation doesn't exist. I think it's a myth. What's the nature of the separation? How would you describe it?
In the manifesting, you're talking?
No.
Separation.
I don't think the separation exists.
There isn't.
There is
No.
no separation.
There is no separation.
We're just particles vibrating.
Yes.
In all this space.
I'm I think
So
this
we're all
is
just-
probably the most important point of the evening, that there is no separation.
Yeah, there is.
Thank you for bringing it
Yes.
out.
You're welcome.
I think that that's why sometimes we feel a lot of people's emotions, like you said, they can pull energy from you, and you just don't like being around certain people, or you really enjoy certain people because we all are connected. Like, we were all even, I believe, meant to be here right now together, like, because we all believe in the same thing, right? And we're all curious to learn more about it, and we're all connected, but we even are connected to the people that don't believe. You know, it's just not their time to believe. But we are all connected. And once you come at peace with that, you come at peace with yourself and everyone else around you. Because you
It's
just
easier
learn
to
to
swallow
love.
the little ones that don't get it yet. It's easier to swallow the 2-year-olds that don't get it yet.
Yeah.
Those energetic 2-year-olds that you're talking about.
It's only, I think, when we separate ourselves in ourself. It's like taking a glass of water out of the ocean. But when the glass of water's in the ocean, it's all the ocean, you know, like
That's what we are.
it's all the same, but
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming out and having a listen, and I hope I brought something forward that struck a chord somewhere for you, because I'll be honest, I didn't know what I was gonna say when I came to the board tonight.
Thank you for coming today.
I love your G.
That's what I want, yeah.
Beautiful.